a Twilight Zone MPU board from one of the nicest Twilight Zones that I think I've seen cosmetically. It's been rehabbed, and it's a beautiful machine. I brought the MPU home to install NVRAM, which I have done. I have updated the ROM to TZ version 9.4H, and I also implemented my standard upgrades, which is this 5-volt filter cap, this header here, and a new reset generator. While I had the board here, I noticed there was some corrosion under where the battery holder was, so I have abated that. Now this board has been sanded down to bare copper. I rebuilt the traces, replaced components, and then conformal coated it so it will not corrode any further. The corrosion had dripped down onto the column headers, these 0.100 headers. So when I go back to the game, I'm going to have to repin those 9-pin headers. But it is good to test now. So this is typical when it first comes up. And it's going to say time and date not set. So let's set that time and date. Done. Now we can go back to tests. I'm going to test the important things on the MPU board, which is a switch matrix. So I'm going across the diagonal, showing that all the columns and rows are working perfectly. I can test some of the coin door buttons. Yeah, there we go. So those are all working perfectly. And get out of switch test. And we'll do a little bit of testing here. This is a Rotten Dog driver board that somebody sent me just for general checkout. So I'm doing it at the same time. We're driving all the solenoids now. And the first 6, oh, that's right, I've got a Twilight Zone ROM in here, so it's not going to drive them in the typical order. As long as it drives one every once in a while there. Now it's on to the solenoids that were driven by the 8-driver board. There's some more that are driven by the 8-driver board. Let's test the general illumination on this Rotten Dog driver board. And we can test all lamps. Looks good. And that is it. So this board is good to go. Back to the client, and I also brought the 8-driver board with me because it melted the plastic just above the upper right flipper on Twilight Zone, and it's probably been melted for quite. As I was saying before my phone ran out of memory, I brought home the 8-driver board, and I brought it home because the upper right flasher above the upper right flipper had locked on, and it had locked on at some point in time, and I suspected one of these transistors was at fault, but no, that wasn't the case. What can happen with this is if the ribbon on this comes free or doesn't make good connection with the CPU, it will allow the signals to this LS576 to float, ALS576 to float, and it'll sometimes turn on a transistor, which we don't want to have happen. So this is the correction for that. You put a 10K SIP resistor. This is only 4.7. This will work just fine. And a 10K resistor in these locations. And this essentially is a pull-down resistor, or it is a pull-down resistor for the inputs to this chip. Thanks for watching.